Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. One more interesting session coming up with Marshal Bedi, who's here with me. Namaskar, good evening, sir. And
Hi, good evening.
बेदी साहब हमको बताएंगे आज डायरेक्टेड एनर्जी वेपन्स के बारे में थोड़ी और चीजें बात करेंगे some more air defense tactics which will lead us into another show one day when we will discuss and understand air defense. Sir has become like a college professor for us who explains things in a very ground basic. Sir, ये मैं नहीं बोल रहा, ये लोगों का feedback है. So I thought I'll just mention that. Guys, today's subject is very important. The Chinese have a special weapon, right? They've got hypersonics, they've got this, they've got that, all that is there. But there are some advancements which have been made in these weapons where they are now going to be challenging the US. जो एयरक्राफ्ट कैरियर्स हैं, जो शिप्स हैं, उनको चैलेंज करने के लिए इन्होंने कुछ बनाया है. इसके बारे में बात करेंगे, थोड़ा सा डायरेक्टेड एनर्जी वेपन्स के बारे में बात करेंगे और सर से थोड़ी सी इंफॉर्मेशन निकालने की कोशिश करेंगे कि भारत का क्या गेम है. ऑल्दो कुछ पता चलता नहीं है, बट इन एनी केस व्हाटएवर सर कैन टेल अस, वी विल लिसन एंड लर्न. सर, ओवर टू यू. गुड इवनिंग, नमस्कार, वेलकम टू द शो.
Thank you very much, Adi. Always a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to learning a few things whenever I'm on your show.
Grateful.
Uh, you talked of air defense in general. Air defense is very important. When we have been following Russia-Ukraine war also, you would have noticed that in the initial days, both sides lost too many aircraft because, in my opinion, they did not play the air defense game well. So air defense is of topmost priority. Everybody looks at it. And when you're talking of US carrier, anyway, everybody's carriers are important, but let's focus on US because it has too many, and it sticks them out far too out, than anyone else
बहुत दूर है, हाँ जी.
would do. Yeah. And then the threat is, of course, very large to it. Tomorrow, I mean, India also is building a carrier force. Of course, you'll have to defend them. So, what they do, how they are going about it, I think there will be a few lessons to learn. Now, anything can hit a carrier, which can substantially damage it, is a cause of worry. Now, China, when started, I mean, now, they say that DFZF, that hypersonic glide vehicle, they've already mastered on DF-17 and is a formidable weapon which US has to worry about. And it is pushing US back, slowly from the boundaries that it would come to. Now, it was always worried. US was always worried about its DF-21, the ballistic missiles. They were made basically for US carriers. Subsequently, they started threatening even us, India also, and we started talking about the rocket force because even we became a target big enough for them. But it was always meant for US carrier. Now, carrier, if you see an average carrier is about 13 to $15 billion. This is a hell of a lot of money. Okay. $1 billion, 1 billion is 100 crores, right? And if you say 15 billion, 1,500 crores, and you multiply by 81 lakh 20,000 crore is one carrier, which comes very close to your, I mean, US
बहुत हो
class
गया.
limits class carrier. Yeah. So it's just a little, 60 odd percent of your defense budget, I would say, right? So that is what is at stake. So US always had plans, to cater against ballistic missiles for this DF-21 class. Now, what is the difference? Now, if you just project my first slide, I just want to tell the audience that what are we talking of? Now here on the projected is a few trajectories. The blue one, top one is the ballistic missile. It is written there in case you can read. And now you come below, then that is hypersonic glide vehicle, and bilkul niche green, that is the hypersonic missile. With me, Avi, can you see? Yeah, I'm
Yeah, yeah.
sure people can, right? So, and target is shown on the right, and the launch site is shown on the left. Okay, in white is atmosphere. So, what do we see here? That ballistic missile escapes atmosphere way above. It goes to very high, depending on the range it has to travel, and escapes atmosphere, then comes down. And hypersonic glide vehicle, we talked about it, but just to reiterate, it it may escape atmosphere to an extent, it may not, but the most important point is, if you see, it's maneuvering, it's zigzagging, at random, so you cannot really calculate. where is it going? And hypersonic cruise missile down below is well within the atmosphere. It could be at 40, 50, 60 kilometers, somewhere there. And it's going also in a maneuvering way. Now, you would be surprised that while hypersonic missile, we say very high speed, etc., it is not always necessary that hypersonic will reach the target faster than ballistic missile. It depends on the range. Okay, because ballistic missiles actually could travel much faster than hypersonic standard hypersonic missiles which traveled in the atmosphere. If I have to explain it with an analogy, आप imagine कीजिए एक round swimming pool, let's say. Okay, and you are in the swimming pool और आपको पानी में चल के जाना है, and there is a guy outside who can go around the perimeter, run and come. So it is not necessary कि आप पानी में चल के, चाहे आपका डिस्टेंस छोटा हो, कि आप पहले पहुंच जाओगे. इट इज पॉसिबल कि जो बाहर भाग रहा है, क्योंकि इस पे ड्रैग नहीं है, इट इज इन ट्रेवलिंग इन मच लेसर ड्रैग, इट कैन रन मच फास्टर then you can walk in the swimming pool, right? So that is the, while your hypersonic missile in the atmosphere probably can go to Mach 9, 10, at the most, the ballistic missiles went up to 20, 25 Mach. Okay, but if the distance was less, then obviously hypersonic had an edge, because then it leaving the trajectory, going that far, coming back obviously will take time. Okay, now what did the US start doing if when it was to cater for this ballistic missile? पहले उन्होंने 1974 में they started thinking about it, और एक SAM program, surface to air missile development, SAM-D they called it, which was against aircraft only. Okay, they said के aircraft के against ये चाहिए. एंड 1976 में इन्होंने कुछ उसमें चेंजेस की और उसका नाम रखा पैट्रियट. ओके, Patriot is actually an acronym which stands for Phased Array Tracking Radar to Intercept on Target. Okay, so that is Patriot. Okay, Phased Array Tracking Radar to Intercept on Target. So because it had capability, now then subsequently they added the ballistic missile capability into it in about 1980. They called it PAC, Patriot Advanced Capability. Okay, PAC 1 version. Then they went on to PAC 2, where they changed its area of influence. Earlier it could defend only about 25 square kilometers, and then it was able to defend about 100 square kilometers. Okay, so it became PAC 2. Then what happened? PAC 3 came, which we now know. Okay, PAC 3 में क्या किया इन्होंने कि पहले की जो मिसाइल थी ना, PAC 1 and 2, that blast fragmentation head. That means the warhead was blast fragment, and it will go near the target, and it will it will blast and damage the missile. But now it was not proving very effective against very fast moving missiles, so they wanted to hit it directly. So it became a kinetic kill weapon, where it had the capability to directly go and hit it. Okay, so what happens now, how it is done, earlier also we had talked कि ये जो ballistic missiles को target करते हैं ना, a little different है hypersonic missile से. Okay, ballistic missile जैसे आप देखोगे कुछ नहीं कर रही है, यहाँ से launch एक जगह से होती है, then क्या करते हैं, इनके जो system है पूरा, जैसे ना एक एयर डिफेंस का system है, उसका जो sensor है उसको detect करता है. Okay, दैट के कहाँ से लॉन्च हुई, फिर उसका कंप्यूटर सब कुछ कैलकुलेट करता है कि कहाँ जा रही है, किस टाइम पे ये कहाँ पे होगी, और फिर ये इंटरसेप्ट मिसाइल जो है उसको लॉन्च करता है टू मीट इट एट दैट पॉइंट. ओके, जैसे एक्सप्लेन करें कि आप जस्ट इमेजिन हाउ दिस होल थिंग वर्क्स. ओके, सिंपल एनालॉजी एंड आई एम फॉन्ड ऑफ इट जस्ट टू एक्सप्लेन माय पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, कि आप हैंडबॉल का मैच देखें, देयर इज अ टीम प्लेयर्स हैं, हैंडबॉल, बास्केटबॉल, कुछ भी बॉल लगा लो, बट हैंडबॉल जस्ट एक्सप्लेन्स इट बेटर. नाउ एक टीम प्लेयर को पास करना है हैंडबॉल अपने टीम प्लेयर को, वो कहाँ फेंकता है उसको, नॉट वेयर द टीम प्लेयर इज एट दैट मोमेंट. सो ही क्विकली जजेस, his mind calculates the movement of his team player, the way he starts moving, कि किस तरफ जा रहा है. He knows the speed of his ball generally, and just imagine his mind calculates that the time my ball is going to reach that place, take to reach that place, this player would have reached that place. So he throws it in a manner that that team player and this ball meet at a same point in ideal conditions, right? So this is your mind calculating while playing that simple game. Now you increase that quantum or area, और उसका आप स्केल बढ़ा दीजिए, तो इट्स समथिंग व्हाट हैपेंस इन दिस इंटरसेप्ट्स, कि कमांड एंड कंट्रोल जो है कंप्यूटर वो कैलकुलेट करता है कि कैसे उसको देखा जाएगा और कहाँ पहुंचेगी उस टाइम मिसाइल, उस समय से उस हिसाब से इंटरसेप्ट मिसाइल लॉन्च करते हैं। अब प्रॉब्लम क्या है इनमें आती है, नॉट ओनली मैन्यूवरेबिलिटी। आप देखोगे कि ये वाइल बैलिस्टिक मिसाइल बहुत ऊपर जा रही है, बाकी मिसाइल्स बहुत नीचे है, तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है इनमें से? इनकी डिटेक्शन लेट होती है। कैन वी कम टू द नेक्स्ट वन प्लीज?
यस सर।
अब इसमें देखिए सेम थिंग, थोड़ा सा मैंने डिप्रेस किया है ये जस्ट टू शो। वही वही डायग्राम है जो वहां दिखाई थी, ये बैलिस्टिक मिसाइल है और ये दूसरी मिसाइल है, और यहाँ पे सेंसर है, ये ना वाइट, ये येलो वाला जहाँ पे एरो बना हुआ है ऑन द राइट साइड, राइट। ये क्या बताता है आपको कि जो री एंट्री डिटेक्शन है, री एंट्री व्हीकल जो ऊपर आरवी लिखा हुआ है, बैलिस्टिक मिसाइल, वो देखो बहुत पहले हो जाती है बिकॉज उसकी हाइट बहुत है। रेडार होराइजन का फॉर्मूला है, सिंपली सेइंग 1.25 इंटू अंडर रूट ऑफ h1 प्लस अंडर रूट ऑफ h2। इसको अगर एक्सपेंड करें तो अगर 60 किलोमीटर्स पे कोई ऑब्जेक्ट है और रेडार अगर ग्राउंड पे है, तो वो उसको ज्यादा से ज्यादा 850 किलोमीटर्स पे देख पाएगा। ओके, नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस इज, ये जो एचजीवी हैं, जो हाइपरसोनिक ग्लाइड व्हीकल्स हैं, या दिस बैलिस्टिक मिसाइल है, बिकॉज इट्स वेरी लो इन ऑल्टीट्यूड, their detection is very late. Now two things happen, you see. One, that you're detecting them late, they are moving very fast, and you don't know their trajectory, right? So now it is difficult to handle them. That is what is becoming problematic. Now cruise missiles are not yet on the horizon, but very soon, when they come, this is going to be the problem. That is why when they started thinking of that how to handle them, and directed energy weapons and all those elements started playing. Now जैसे हमने पेट्रियट की बात की, उसी क्लास में दूसरी मिसाइल्स हैं, जैसे अपनी S-400 लगा लो, फॉर सिमिलर रोल, ओके, या SM-3 स्टैंडर्ड मिसाइल, SM-2 SM-3 मिसाइल अमेरिका की है, बहुत दूर तक 3000 किलोमीटर तक they can detect and launch. And very interesting, about this, they, and जैसे US का थर्ड सिस्टम था, terminal high altitude, they all started getting it back, to get laid defense, जो ताकि अब किसी चीज को छोड़ेंगे नहीं ये, ताकि everything will be used, because threat to their carriers is not only, let's say, from a particular missile. It is, there could be drones, not the drone will sink the carrier, but it will make you expend your ammunition, your close-in weapon systems, etc., and then the main weapon will come, right? So now they are also putting everything into play, and this third terminal high altitude area defense जो है 870 to 3000 किलोमीटर तक इसकी डिटेक्शन है। वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग, एक ना और एजी सिस्टम से काम करता है ये, ओके, जो इन्होंने अपने डिस्ट्रॉयर्स पे लगाया हुआ है। एक टॉम क्लेंजी ने बुक लिखी थी 1986 में, रेड स्टॉर्म राइजिंग, ओके, and he wrote about about US Russia war. In that he painted a scenario, and he recalled one very interesting anecdote. He wrote subsequently that he visited that ship, US ship, US Saipan, I think, okay, which he had mentioned in his book. And he said, I was pleasantly surprised to see that all the crew on that ship, they were wearing the same name tabs, the names he had given them in his book. Like captain is so and so, and crew is so and so. So the captain was standing with the same name tab, etc., etc. And they say, when I was going around, they showed me this AG system, okay, and explained the capability of it, that how capable it is. It can, detect aircraft or any coming object, identify it, take it on, etc., etc. And he very well explains that system. And then he says, little realizing that not even a year later, the same system would have shot down an Iranian airline. Okay, 3rd
Wow.
July 88. Okay, it was Iranian airline Airbus A300, which was airborne from Iran to Dubai. and Aegis system, this Iraq war was going on then, and the US ships were being troubled, and I believe US was telling Iran for some time that stop it or something, but they were not listening, and one helicopter came under fire of US. And what happened, this Iranian Airbus was shot out of sky, uh, mistaking it for F-14, because Iran had F-14 then, which US only had given. Now, incidentally, F-14 is an air defense aircraft. It is not a ground attack aircraft. Okay, it was not, but though they said that no, they had developed some ground attack capability. But what
Hmm.
happened? What US said that it was being threatened. They realized that probably this ship was being threatened by Vincennes. Okay, was threatened by this incoming F-14, and it did not respond on that IFF, etc., etc. And mistaking it, we shot it. Though it was on its course, etc. I mean, I'm sure it must have behaved very differently. So
Oddly.
how could
Hmm.
that same system, Aegis, which was so being talked about, could make that mistake? Subsequently, International Court of Justice, they settled it. I think US offered an apology, etc. That that it was a mistake. They still did not say that it was intentionally done, but the fact is, 290 passengers it had on board. Okay, and out of which 274 were Iranians, 10 Indians. Okay, some 6 Pakistanis, some Yugoslavians, and one guy from Italy. That was, people on board. Not many Westerners were on board. There are a lot of conspiracy theories which came out later that they probably, managed not to put anybody on board, etc. But that is besides the system, besides the point.
Hmm.
So what happened is that is what I'm saying, that hope I would take it that probably they made a mistake, or whatever it happened genuinely. So anything, whatever be the capability, people or men, etc., they have to be on the ball, and unless the complete system works, just the capability of the system is not enough to achieve anything. Okay, so now what do we do? How do we detect these missiles? Then they, resorted to space-based systems. Now, next one, if we see, okay, you will see this is how they are now, working on this. This is space-based infrared systems, or hypersonic and ballistic tracking, space sensors. They are planning overhead persistent IR, constellation, and what they call it, a proliferated warfighters space architecture. I mean, they give these names, but the point to note is it will be constellation of 550 satellites, which will only be looking at missiles. Where are they being launched from? So their a game is that hypersonic missile or anything missile which emit great IR signature.
Hmm.
So their aim is that this missile has to be attacked, or detected soon after launch. Now, normally your airborne aircraft or something will have to enter enemy space then to do that, right? The only way is to do it through satellite. Now, satellite, if you see, geostationary satellite, if I see, can see half the globe at any given time. There is radar horizon is not an issue. Okay, but if you have to monitor complete globe all the time, then you need that kind of constellation. And why so many satellites? Because they will be for different purpose. They are some wide field of view, some narrow field of view, some mid field of view, and every one will have it. The whole system has got 7 individual compartments which would be doing their individual role. Okay, to just detect these satellites and shoot them down. But what happens is, now when you come to that, how will I shoot hypersonic missile? Now, hypersonic missile shooting, they say, is like shooting bullet with a bullet. Okay, now you see the next slide, you will get an impression. It is an artist's impression. Okay, I mean, the way he says that how hypersonic missile will be a shot.
Hmm.
Now there is a problem, because you will have to see that where is this missile going to be, and you will have to fire probably multiple kinetic weapons, because it is possible that I fire a kinetic weapon in a particular direction and the missile has changed course. Okay, and then you have to resort to something else. 2018, this program started. They called it glide breaker program. basically, because even that hypersonic light vehicle is kind of gliding at hypersonic speeds and changing course. Okay, so they said that they want to break its glide, and 2018 it started. It's still maturing and probably a few years away, but this is the capability they are developing. Okay, now what happens is, why we when we come to directed energy weapons, that now something interesting happened in 1962. I mean, how did directed energy weapons uh, come into being? Okay, I believe they did one nuclear test over Pacific at about 250 miles. Okay, in 1962, one megaton weapon, and the electronic imbalance that it created, okay, at that height over Pacific, affected the electronic components in Hawaii. Okay, which they realized that something had happened, and so it did not take these military guys to think that this is the field which can have military application. Okay, and they started working then on this lasers. Okay, laser, as we know, is light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. सिंपल वे में बोला जाए तो लाइट ये जो हम देख रहे हैं, these photons are at random, they are all over. Okay, but if you were to now channelize them, if you excite them, they start falling in place and they start traveling in coherent manner, and that is what forms a beam in a simplistic way, and that is what is called a laser beam. So because the energy is concentrated in a beam, so it is powerful, it can do damage. सो सबसे पहले जो लेजर बनाई इन्होंने वो थी एक मिराकल, दे came with this was mid infrared chemical laser. Okay, they called it miracle, but it was huge. It was a chemical laser. It used chemical things, ethylene fuel they used it, and some oxidizer. It was so huge that either it could be on ship or they had to use a Boeing aircraft for that, to get it aircraft. Okay, you see the next aircraft. I have a Boeing which carried next aircraft. Sorry, next picture. Okay, this is that Boeing which is firing that laser, on some. Now it was huge. It was 1 megawatt, power it produced, which was very good and very, very high. But what was the problem with this? They called it, the laser was called coil. They're very good at acronyms. Chemical oxygen iodine laser. Okay. The problem was that you had to carry a lot of chemical. This tail of the aircraft was full of chemicals, full of oxidizer. It was like rocket fuel. The way you burn rocket fuel, same way. It would burn. Okay, and the detection range, while was sufficient, the kill range was not sufficient, that you could stay very far off and take on the enemy target. So probably aircraft would have to enter enemy airspace and take on targets, so which was not really acceptable. Plus they realized that they had to modify some 10, 12 these Boeing aircraft, okay, and to do reasonable work, okay, and all this was becoming too expensive. And 1980s May they did one test. The next picture is of it was released by MDA, Missile Defense Agency, showing the intercept of a ballistic missile. Next picture, please. Next slide. This is the intercept, actual intercept, okay, of a missile. This picture is released by the Air Force, okay, and after they successfully saw it in about 2011, I think, Obama administration was there, and he found that thing too risky, and they called off the complete project. This is one thing about when you read into any technology, the way USA goes about it, they will build up something, they will, take it to some extent and then just drop it. Even in hypersonics, the number of projects that they have worked on and then dropped
They've
is
been
not
working
even.
on it. They've been बहुत time से काम कर रहे हैं सर. They've been working on it for a long, long time.
Yeah. Okay. So इसमें क्या है? Why lasers? Now then, in the meanwhile, what happened is the solid state laser started coming into picture. Okay. Solid state laser में क्या होता है कि instead of chemical you use glass or crystal, okay,
Okay.
me as a medium. So what happens is all that you're achieving, okay, to move the light in a coherent manner is happening in crystals or glass. So it is very safe, it is compact, and it can be, taken in a small small kind of container, okay. But the only problem is now that ND-YAG lasers, which they made. Now, US Navy got into it because they had to save carriers, like we said, or their ships, etc. Okay, so they got heavily into it and started, working on this. Okay, and then what happened? They now when they started working on it, they realized that this laser, solid state laser, had only one problem, that its power output was very, very low. Now there we
Hmm.
talked of 1 megawatt. Okay, the Helios laser which they made, which is high energy laser with integrated optical dazzler and surveillance system. Okay, it's called Helios. Could produce only about 60 kilowatt.
Oh.
Okay, going up to 100 kilowatt at the most. Then they worked more and they came up with Hellcat, okay, high energy laser counter anti-ship project, okay, which went up to 300 watts. Now you see, even at 300 watts, it is one third the power of what that coil gave you.
Hmm.
This 60 watt or 100-watt laser was enough, to work for you for drones, or some subsonic cruise missiles, etc., etc. But it is not enough to work on these hypersonic kind of missiles. Okay, because now what happens is, why lasers became lucrative. Two things happen with lasers or with directed energy weapons. What they call, one is depth of magazine and one is exchange ratio. Okay, depth
Okay.
of magazine is that you have weapon systems. So a ship can have only so many weapon systems. So when it fired away all the weapon systems, what will it do? It had to withdraw. It now cannot stay in the battlefield. But lasers mein kya hai? You will never run out of laser. As long as your aircraft is producing power, you have the laser, right?
Hmm.
So there is no depth of magazine ka limitation. So it is unlimited supply of weapon, so to say. Okay. And when we say exchange ratio is that what I am destroying with what. That is exchange ratio. What am I killing with what? So if you take the SM-3 missile that we talked of, is close to $36 billion. So now I can destroy something, with that missile, or I can destroy it with a laser at the cost of a cup of coffee. That is the difference. Okay. So now that is what the exchange ratio it offers. Okay. $36 billion and so cheap. Okay. So now what happens is, because that is why these became famous and now they are working on it. Okay. I'm sure they will, work further, and work is on, and they will continue to come up with it. Okay. Now, as far as lasers do have problem, lasers की problem क्या है कि when we say, it is not, we are used to laser pointers, है ना? तो जो हम presentation करते हैं कि बिल्कुल जहां पे लगाते हैं वहीं जाता है. Okay. बट एटमोस्फियर में लेजर ऐसे बिहेव नहीं करती. एटमोस्फियर में क्या है कि एटमोस्फेरिक इफेक्ट्स कम इनटू प्ले. Okay, whenever you are firing laser at a very long time, its beam does not remain as sharp or as coherent the way you think it is. Okay, it will tend to disperse. Also, there is thermal boiling which takes place, because it's generating heat now. How does laser burn a system? You have to point at a particular place for some time, and now it starts burning that. By sheer that energy, it burns it off. Okay, some crucial place gets burned off, so you destroy the target system. Okay, and now if you're not able to focus it on something, now if you're talking of a hypersonic kind of missile, let's say if you were putting it on its side or something, probably you still have a chance that you're able to focus it for. And time, when we say, it's not a very long time, we are talking of 10 seconds, 15 seconds, something like that, which incidentally is large. I mean, that hypersonic missile is traveling almost 3 kilometers a second. Okay, but now the problem with laser, or the dichotomy, or the issue is that laser is supposed to destroy the target by burning it, okay, by increasing its temperature. But hypersonic missile head, which is already at 1500, 1600 degrees centigrade, how much more will you burn it? That means it is protected. It is already protected against heat. The metal, that when we talked of hypersonics, we realized that what kind of protective materials it uses, right? So it is already protected against heat. So now if it is protected against heat, then how exactly is laser going to define it, defy it? Okay, now what will happen is, so there are two ways they are working on that, how it will destroy the target. One is that it can, like we say, that directly impact on the missile, and missile could be of two types. If it's carrying fuel, then it can actually increase the temperature of that fuel, which expands and bursts, okay, or makes it redundant. But if it is not carrying fuel, it is a solid state, or it's just gliding, like coming ballistic, okay, then it probably can create a ring around it, heat ring around it, which creates drag so much that it now, against that drag, it cannot negotiate, and it sort of gives away, or disintegrates. But that needs a hell of a lot of power, when we see. Okay, now, when you come to EMP, electronic, magnetic pulse. Now, we've heard of CHAMP system. There was a counter electronics, high powered advanced missile project. They were generally used against ground targets first. They will take it in a UAV probably, okay, and release very high power energy over buildings and transmitters and etc., and destroy them. Then Thor, THOR, tactical high power operational
Hmm.
response. Okay, now they have got this. The what is different from laser? Laser, as we saw, is a very pencil beam. Pencil means very sharp beam. So now,
Sharp.
if there is a swarm coming, if there is a drone ka swarm coming, you can't really have a laser. One 10 second, उधर 15 second, उधर तो फिर उतनी देर में you'll be overwhelmed. Okay. Now, an HPM system like that, which is wide area. Now this will sort out. Let's say a swarm is coming, a HPM system like Thor will disable all of them. Their control systems, it will interfere with their control system because of magnetic pulse, and it will disable all of them or make them go haywire. But problem with this system is that you cannot use it in a contested airspace where your aircraft are also there, because now it is not going to
Yeah.
differentiate between uh,
Catch 22.
yeah, okay. So wherever my aircraft are there, then you can't use it. So you'll have to be very, very careful. So ship like is a very, very apt, I would say, platform. Let's say if it does not have anything flying around it, it knows, and you are under attack or something, then you can probably use it. Or in a tactical battle area, you're very sure that you don't have any friendly aircraft in the area for a short pulse of time, and you're under swarm attack, then you can probably use it. Okay. Now, this is as far as these things are concerned. Now, coming to India, we were saying that how where do we stand in that whole game of things? I think we are doing fairly well in air defense. We have realized that air defense is the mantra. You will have to defend your places. So we have our own BMD program. We had a PAD, Prithvi Air Defense, then AAD, Advanced AD, okay, different capabilities, radars, compatible radars. Then we've got an S400 systems. We've got very potent Akash systems, Spider systems, etc. VSHORADs, laid defense in a very, very methodical way. And, we have been continuously changing tactics in the sense that from our uh, point from base defense to little area defense to now more spread out now, proxy
Integrated.
defense, a whole lot of things. And that IACCA system, it is available. If someone is interested, can just see it on YouTube, etc. They also explain rudimentary. Integrated air command and control system. Now, what it does is it coordinates all the radars, including some civil radars of the entire country, okay, into one comprehensive picture. So today, while sitting in Bangalore, I can actually control an interception over Srinagar, for example.
Wow.
Okay, and you are through and through integrated. That means it is not going to, like, radar feed. Earlier, what used to happen is one radar picking up something, second radar picking up something, the
Then picture
decipher
merge and
picture merging, are you locking onto the same target, etc., etc., was a problem. Okay, but now the things becoming high tech. Now what's happening is this sorts out all these issues, and a very very potent system, very trained. We have them at our key nodes, and they are all interconnected. One thing goes down, the second one can take over, etc. I mean, seamless coverage of air defense is ensured. And then of course aircraft, we have talked about them, very high-end aircrafts we have got. We have inducted Meteor class of missile, which is very, very potent. And we are talking of offensive air defense now, in the sense that you are not only doing air defense in your territory, you are capable of doing air defense. I mean, even in enemy territory. What is air defense after all means? You are destroying enemy aircraft which can interfere with your target system.
operations.
Okay, so defending against those systems is what we are talking about, right? And as far as our DWs are concerned, yes, there is a work on that also. We have one center called CHESS in Hyderabad. It stands for Center for High Energy System and Sciences. Okay, they work on this lasers, etc. And it's open domain that Red Fort, they had deployed their laser, but work is on. They are working upwards from 10 to 50 to 100 kilowatts. Okay, and again, very limited information, and it's incidentally called, they call it Durga 2. Okay, Durga stands for directionally unrestricted ray gun array. Okay, where what they used. Okay, so then there is Kali. Okay, everybody knows about, has heard about Kali, but nobody. I mean, it's
Knows
really
what
like
it is.
everybody knows about it, but no, everybody has heard about it, but nobody knows about it. Okay, and I think Indian government is also wishes to stay very confidential about it, so not much literature is available. Suffices to say that kilo ampere linear injector, it got people worried that what it is. Some people said कुछ है कुछ नहीं है, so है तो भी ठीक है, नहीं है तो भी ठीक है. I guess we just leave it at that, because that's how it's supposed to be, right? But normal lasers now are going to, are all anti-drone systems now have got a laser component embedded in that. Okay, though very small. I mean, we are not reaching yet anywhere close to that high end, what we call attacking missiles or hypersonics or something like that. So but work is on. Okay, so I think in a nutshell, I mean, I try to paint a picture of, when we started off, that how's USA thinking, and we end up talking of USA. Not that others don't have these systems. Incidentally, China itself has a DN3 system, which is equivalent to SM3 kind of system, because everybody who has, whether you defend carrier or you defend something else, I mean, air defense is the same thing. And why we talked of carrier, like I said, for the same thing. One, it is difficult to attack mainland USA, and they come out in the open, and it is very costly. So it figuratively conveys high value target, but every
Cost.
target is of cost wise and value wise and prestige wise, I would say, right? You can't afford to have
Carrier
some
sinking. I mean, that's
carrier thinking. Okay, because now, and why, I mean, we I didn't want to repeat it, that why hypersonics and ballistic missile, what was lacking in ballistic missiles was the accuracy part of it. These hypersonic missiles now will get you that accuracy probably, which otherwise missiles were lacking. All ballistic missiles were, meant for nuclear kind of
area.
delivery, so they
Hmm.
other area weapon. But now they're becoming point target. Okay, so they wanting to have more and more accuracy. So that is why it is worried now. Probably, in US's calculation, uh, against DF-21 or etc., it probably thought that a moving target, if it was to get carrier in motion, etc., then probably probability of hit of those missiles could have been. I'm not saying not at all. I mean, you could launch multiple of them, something will hit, but you're forcing them to launch more. But this hypersonic missile or glide vehicle will overcome this problem. They can launch lesser number and still get the carrier. So that is what is getting them worried, which will get anyone worried, mind you. Whether it's you or China or Russia, or I mean, Russia lost a carrier to subsonic missile. Mercury, I mean, subsonic cruise missile, right? And why subsonic cruise missile? Because of the accuracy, because its cruise missiles have the accuracy. So finally, you will use that.
Correct.
Okay.
दूसरा,
So I think I will stop here, having given an overall picture, and let's see what people have to
see सब,
ask.
मेरे को एक ही क्वेश्चन पूछना है. I just want to
Yeah.
ask you one question with regards to
Yeah.
uh, DW especially. The whole concept is obviously Star Wars type concept.
Yeah.
It's thoda sa,
Absolutely.
uh, this thing. So that one part, and second part, so we could look at probably sometime in the future if you can explain to us what is this Star Wars thing, because there's a
Mhm.
lot which is spoken about, and I believe that the Americans are also resurrecting their entire program and this and that. So we could talk about it sometime. And
Yeah,
my,
sorry, shooting was, it's a part of Star Wars. When you read literature, this
mm,
shooting by that coil missile, what last picture we showed, they say it's a kind of Star Wars concept only. Shooting a ballistic missile in the air, and that if I don't know whether you watched Ramanand Sagar's Ramayana when it came, uh, Ramayana serial. Did you watch? Did you get to watch Ramanand Sagar's? Okay, they showed something like that. That one
yeah,
guy chalaws an arrow, and that arrow hits arrow. That what I said, that yeah, glide
the
breaker
bullet
is
hitting
hitting
the,
bullet with
yeah.
a bullet. Okay, is something like that concept. So
नहीं,
out of
interesting sir,
Star Wars,
because
out of
I believe हमारी जो पुरानी चीजें हैं उसके ऊपर a lot of people are researching on that कि what all science can be
yeah,
derived out of it.
yeah, yeah.
My second part that I wanted to ask you was about uh, the re-entry, these RGVs, glide vehicles. We've also done some testing now. We've seen those, that
Yes,
Delta thing
yeah.
flying around the place and this and that. So how difficult is it to kind of operationalize something like this? Kitna, I mean, what is the how, because it's a weapon, it's not carrying any human beings, so obviously the self safety factor and the human safety factor is much lesser, unless it is used for that purpose. That's separate. As a weapon, once you finish these tests, how fast do you think you could kind of
I
push it
think
in?
if you, the whole thing is that this boost glide weapon is much simpler as compared to cruise missile to put it into action. It is already there. Like, the countries already have it. Okay. That avant-garde, what we talk of, or this DFCF we are talking of. Okay. India is working on it. Okay. The other people, I mean, USA, of course, will have it. The thing is, uh, you just have to carry it on top of a ballistic missile, which goes on top and releases it. Okay. Thereafter, the command and control and how it is going and how it is maneuvering, etc., is a matter of putting those avionics and those things into it and some kind of warhead. Even if you don't put warhead into it, Adi, by its kinetic energy itself will do so much of damage.
Yeah, I mean,
By that it will be devastating. Yeah, very very high speed impact. Okay, so operationalizing boost glide vehicle will be much simpler in my opinion. Okay, simpler is relatively now. Okay, that
I
I
mean,
mean it's
yeah, just
yeah, as compared to cruise missile, because cruise missile is going to essentially need a scramjet, what we talk. Okay, and the scramjet is what is creating problem. You have not yet operationalized very large time burn time. some 220 seconds, somebody says somebody has got up to 600 seconds, etc. It's minimum 1000 to 1200 seconds working is which will give you credible range for a cruise missile, which probably is still a little far off.
Let's get into some questions, sir. खूब सारे सवाल हैं,
Yeah.
lots of questions, lots of comments. Guys, before we do that, as usual, like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can join in as members or send us super sticker, super chats, or you can directly contribute to the effort. But most importantly, spread the word. That is most critical so that we grow as a community and we have these sane discussions. So thank you so much for joining in. Let's begin. Ashish ji, thank you so much for joining as a member. And Sameer ji, thank you so much for joining as a member. Apart from that, Aminder, thank you so much. Welcome as a member. And yeah, and let's start with the first question, sir. Gumnami Baba says, thank you so much. Firstly, he says India's Vajra was the first DEW.
Indra's Indra's Vajra.
Indra, sorry. My apologies. Yes.
Yeah. First DW look into it. I'm sure it must be. So, I mean, that is our mythology.
You mentioned history
Yeah,
and you know
yeah. I just saw. I mean, as a child, we used to watch that. I mean, not a child or whatever age we were, but now when I saw this picture, I was just reminded of that. That was something that this is how it would be.
you never know, sir. We might learn from our history once again.
Yes,
वैसे भी
of
the armed
course.
forces are now doing that project Udbhav, taking
Udbhav, yeah,
lessons from वो पुराने चाणक्य
yeah.
नीति and those
Yes,
kind of things.
because
So
they said there's a lot of wisdom in our ancient
yeah, yeah.
writings. So they can be, I mean, you don't have to fight war like that, but the
The
central
lessons can
point,
be taken, sir.
the
Mhm.
lessons can be taken. Yeah.
I would say the politico-military lessons can be taken.
Yes, of course.
Yes. Ami, thank you so much for your contribution. He says, dear sir, from your observation uh, of the Russia-Ukraine war, what should be the one most important lesson drawn for the Indian Air Force? What is your general opinion of the Russian Air Force in Ukraine?
Oh, see, what happens is now I think they're getting their act together. But initially, like I made, this was my understanding that you in any campaign, uh, you have to sort out enemy's air defense. We also in our game of things that suppression of enemy air defense, SEAD campaign or DEAD campaign, what we call destruction of enemy air defense or suppression of enemy air defense. Suppression is by electronic means. That means you
Mhm.
jam them, you keep them down, don't let them transmit, or confuse them. Destruction is physical destruction, right? Now what happens is and incidentally we are our DRDO is developing Rudram missile. Last time it had come up. Okay, the Rudram series aim to do precisely that. There are three versions of that. First two versions are for SEAD, and we are very very conscious of it. And we have been earlier using this P-31 class of Russian missiles. Every campaign, in my opinion, has to open up very, very strongly with SEAD and DEAD. If you ignore that, then there is going to be problem. And I don't know this since he's pointedly asking Russia. No, Russia had a very nasty experience in Afghanistan. You
Hmm.
know, earlier. Okay, where the Stinger missiles, supplied by USA did a lot of damage to them. And there was an SOP made that every Russian aircraft which took off from Afghanistan soil would continuously deploy flares till it reached 6,000 feet. Okay, and everybody who came into land will start deploying flares from 6,000 feet onwards till it landed.
How many
I
flares do
don't
you
know.
carry, sir?
Yeah, yeah, you can. I mean, probably they would land quickly, but that was it. You can carry so many flares. अपने Air Force Day वगैरह में नहीं देखा IL-76 flares
Yeah,
बिखेरता हुआ पीछे,
it is a Shah, sir, but fighters I'm
Shots.
talking about on fighter aircraft.
Yeah. On fighter aircraft also, you can carry. What happens is flare is nothing. It's choti choti. There are those magazines are of
Canisters, huh?
chaff and flare. Yeah, chaff and flare, both they are interchangeable. Okay, so you can carry some. I mean, what happens is it's not that tok 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 you are doing a continuous Diwali type. It is at decent intervals. you see that when one is getting
हाँ वो
sort of khatam ho gaya to fir dusra, that sort of thing. Okay, I'm sure they would have had SOPs, but the point is that they did that, and probably somebody may not fire if someone was flaring. Okay, but they again landed up going low level. They lost so many helicopters to shoulder fired missiles. I mean, same class of missiles. I really unexplainable. Then why didn't they really stick to that? I mean, learn from that. Either again, people don't read history, or they just thought that nothing will happen and things like that. Okay,
so
so that
we've
was the
seen
biggest. Hmm?
we've seen videos of Iraq in the night being
Yeah,
bombed by
yeah,
USAF.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
these guys would come in and you can see tush tush. They're
yeah,
firing
yeah.
single flares.
Single,
They
single
bomb
flare.
in, and at the ascent also they're
Yeah,
releasing one by one because these things were happened in the night. So there were very clear images of these things.
absolutely. So the what he asked, that the one single lesson for us would be that you, by whatever means, you have to sort out before you get in full bore into somewhere with your assets and with your aircraft. You have to sort out enemy air defense, and at the same lesson, that keep your air defense very, very strong and guarded, because I'm sure enemies would probably plan to do the same thing.
Thanks for that answer. That cleared a lot of things, honestly. Uh, Vineet, thank you so much. Small Pushpam Patram. I'm not sure what that means, but thanks so much. Uh, Kafir Krish, yeah, likes come kyun hai? Absolutely. Please listen to Kafir Krish and increase the likes in the show, most importantly. JBJP, thank you so much. He says, in figures, money and manpower on defense R&D by US, China and Bharat.
Oh, this is a very sad story. In figure, money and manpower, I mean, I don't know what figures to put, but US essentially is way ahead in R&D. That is where everything starts, and they don't shy away from there. China R&D, if you call it R&D, or at least even if they copy it with a little commitment. I would say, they do things on their own also. But as far as India is concerned, I think we started doing now, but I still it's not enough. And it's not that it's not enough because we don't want to do it, but I think there are overall compulsions, Adi, because you have to build up arsenal also, you have to fight also. It's a happy balance. Anybody, I won't envy the decision makers in their chair, that I know that R&D is required, how much money should go in R&D, and without any end in sight. Probably when we grow, economy grows a little more, we whatever figures are being projected, we become a little more sustained. It's a vicious cycle. It's catch 22. As far as I see it that way, because R&D is required, and a lot of money is required in
Correct.
R&D, because things are they just don't work the way you think they should work. Testing facilities, the talent, the you name a thing, everything costs. And we have not reached. I don't think will is lacking, but the capacity definitely is lacking. So if you want a ranking, then probably we can say, I mean, US is far ahead, probably followed by China, and then India with large gap.
Vineet, thank you so much. I've been made to understand small Pushpam Patram means a small monetary donation. Thank you.
Donation. Yeah,
A lot of people commented there, so thank you.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, is electricity the only form of energy available for creating DEWs if no other forms of energy available? If yes, how far miniaturization of electrical sources are achieved? Deployable, feasible on aircraft and tanks?
Yeah, I guess, any form of energy, like we said, there was a which the coil which went, they were using chemical, they were using aircraft energy only, aircraft source of energy, right? Why I said electrical? Because the ship is producing electricity for itself, through turbines, etc. So they use that energy. Tomorrow, probably If you have nuclear form of energy, even that energy can be used. Basically, you need energy to excite the electrons or the photons. Something is required, to pump in energy. Nothing comes for free, like they say. And law of conservation of energy is simply that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only change one form to another, right? So to achieve anything new, you need a form of energy. Okay, so I suppose it's not that you are only destined to electric energy. When we say the electric, what I gave light ka, because it is a source of light. Laser, after all, is a photon. I mean, it's a source of light. I said the way that this light is scattered, if you combine it, it will form into a sharp beam. But what energy do you use to produce that? I am sure different forms of energies can be used, but miniaturization will depend on what power output are you looking at. Okay, but I think if you want larger power output, then the miniaturization is an issue. What are we talking? I mean, you have pencil lasers, no pen lasers. When I just have to point at my PowerPoint presentation, it's as miniaturized as you can think. But what is the power in that, right? So, but if I want to burn a hole in a UAV, then you obviously need much more power output. So, if that power output is required, then the size becomes an issue. So, I think that is the game which it has to play. But I practically don't see fighter aircrafts using laser to kill, I would say. Because why? One reason is that fighter aircraft is agile. You need to focus. I mean, I
Mm.
don't envisage that a fighter aircraft firing laser and now continuously
Aiming at
lasing,
that point.
for example, aiming at a airborne target. You use laser to drop bombs. I mean, laser guided bombs are using lasers. No, I mean, after all, I am eliminating the target. So you have to be so steady in that dive, or somebody else has to lace for you. How does LGB work? When we used to carry it on Mirage 2000, you carried laser pod yourself. So I picked up target, I laced the target, that laser would return, and when I drop the bomb, that bomb is going on that return, right? And I'm continuously lasing the target. So I had to be in that attack mode for some time. Only thing you could do that and turn around because your pod swiveled, and I could lace on the way back
Back.
also. So that means I could attack and I'm getting away at the same time lacing. Then subsequently these UAVs came, and then our ground people started lasing. So for any kind of lasing, what I'm saying is that you need focused time to do that. And now when we are talking of, and they are very small lasers, those are just wanting a signal to ride on. I mean, they are not to damage the target. But if an aircraft has to use laser to damage the target, then the power output will have to be hell of a lot. I don't think a fighter aircraft has the capacity to carry that weight to lays. And when it can carry those kind of missiles, it essentially will it's more suitable for a ship kind of use as of now. And maybe larger aircraft in the next generation, when they miniaturize more or more output comes, probably they can start using it. AVAX, for example, is one thing which comes to my mind, that because it cannot maneuver very fast, and if suppose somebody was coming towards it, attacking it, it had this very powerful laser, then it could probably threaten that incoming aircraft, before it could reach its own missile launch envelope. One application which is possible.
So, does the US Navy really have a working EM railgun on their ships, on one of
I
their
think
ships?
so. Yeah, yeah. They are working on rail guns, and there are reports that they have. But like I said, there is a lot of work on. Anywhere that you read or you see, because power output now they've shifted on to the solid state and things like that. The power output is becoming an issue, and slowly they are working on it. Moment they reach to 1 megawatt capacity. Incidentally, they have. If you casually read, they have achieved very, somebody would say some million watts or something, but for a nanosecond, for a that kind of output has been achieved. But for a just as a specimen, or for a no, I can't even call it fraction of a second, like they're talking in terms of nanoseconds and things like that. Okay, but a sustained laser which needs about 10 seconds or 15 seconds lasing, that is to reach that megawatt capacity is what is probably taking time.
Adi Sura, your request shall be taken up. Star Wars program.
Yeah, yeah.
So we shall talk about it sometime. Uh, Ask Bedi sir. Question one: Kali 5,000 10,000 is real. Question two: if it's real, what is the general working principle? यार ये cheating है भाई एक बारी में एक ही सवाल होता है. And he says question three:
See,
last word of Pakistan was caused by
now this
Kali. I mean,
is
this is
something
all.
I really can't answer. I'm sorry about it because, like I gave that disclaimer. I try to find out. I try to talk to people. I try to, and now I just don't want to uh, say something or cook up something which I find it difficult
Absolutely.
to explain or stand by subsequently,
Absolutely.
because very, very categorically, I suppose it's a confidential
And
program.
guys, some things must be kept that ways also. There are certain
Yeah.
trump cards which you have. They need
Like
to be
USA
kept the way it
probably,
is. So छोड़ दो.
what is coming out, the kind of trump card USA had, that discussion anyway. I don't know. We get
I
time to
mean,
talk
sir,
about
the SR-71 remained classified for what?
it. Yeah.
15 years before it was first shown to the
Yes.
people. यार अच्छा ये भी जहाज है आपके पास. So
Mhm.
some things need to be left like that. Let them be. Some disinformation going around about directed energy weapons causing earthquakes. Yeah, I've heard about earthquakes and that fire in Maui and stuff like that. So there was a lot of stuff which was spoken about it. I guess that
Yeah,
happens because you don't know what it is, so you probably,
hmm.
you know,
So, people put two and two together. Some people just have, maybe they are right, maybe they have a better vision. I don't know. I'm not undermining
we
them.
don't know, sir. Don't know.
But what happens is when somebody just leaves it at that and does not go on to explain as to why did he arrive at that conclusion, then it leaves people confused. Like
Correct.
he rightly said, disinformation. Now it's not information, okay? And because I can't explain it, I just say that okay, I think DW's caused this earthquake. Now I must go on to explain as to why am I saying that, or what makes you think so, who did what, etc., etc. And how will DW create an earthquake? I mean, some things assume
Fires, okay,
are
fine, acceptable, believable, but
fire, okay, because that is it's burning up, that is what it is doing, destroying targets like that, okay. But shake up the earth like that, I mean, I don't know.
I hope not.
Yeah.
Do you know about these ghost rockets that once appeared on the skies of Europe, mostly Arctic region, I guess? Were they experimental stuffs during the Cold War?
They Now there are a lot of things being talked about. I mean, one will have to really do a dedicated study over it. I mean, like he has heard, we have all heard about it. Okay, but unless you go deep into it, now we are talking of UFOs and UAPs. Being seen.
So
Okay,
it's not
and
not you can't be called crazy anymore if you say
you
USO
can't be called.
UFO.
And it's so much. I mean, I don't know whether you heard that David Grush's testimony, okay, to
My
the
God, that was
Congress,
crazy.
and he says, I mean, he says there is biological evidence which is not human. You
So
see,
well,
when
there are chaps. There's a guy. I forget his
uh,
name. Guys, you can. I'm sure you guys will be able to pick up what I'm saying. He was working in this place in Area 51 in the 1970s and 80s. He says there is an element that they are working on which can defy gravity when it reaches a certain electronic charge.
Mhm.
So the point, Bob Lazar, thank you, Gumnami Baba. Bob Lazar's story has just slipped out of my mind. So you got to watch this. It's amazing stuff. What all he talks, I don't know how much of it is real, but he literally was. He took people to see a, a, a vehicle literally come up, and he said this will
Hmm.
happen now, and that vehicle
Hmm.
literally came up, moved around, came back down, and the sightings you've seen just from 0 feet to 60,000 feet in
Yeah.
10 seconds.
yeah. And these sightings which they are saying about this UAP, that what is unidentified aerial phenomena or anomalous
Yeah,
phenomena, they it has been going on since 2004. There is one gentleman, he F-18 pilot.
he
There
chased
were
it.
two of them, and he said 2004, and he within a minute, it almost 50-60 miles it went off.
Yeah.
And he said the kind of shape it had no propulsion system, no wings, no nothing, and but it was
Now, funnily speaking,
flying.
sir, Bob Lazar spoke about this stuff in
Yeah,
1980s,
yeah.
and he mentioned an element at that time. The
Hmm.
interesting thing is that element was actually discovered. It's called L15 in
Hmm.
2004 or 6 or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
20 years later, the exact description of what that guy said was actually discovered here. So it is amazing the kind of stuff.
Amazing
If it's
stuff.
true, I mean, you never know.
And he seems to be remembering it very vividly. Those guys
Very
asked
good.
him pointed questions, laws of physics. That guy asked that, okay, because he said it was moving at Mach 2 speed or something. So he said, okay, if you say that it was moving at Mach 2, did you hear the sonic boom? So he said, no, I was in my aircraft. I mean, I did not, but relatively I could make out that it must be moving at that kind of speed. And not only that, uh, the kind of maneuvers it performed, he said, are impossible for a human being to take that kind of G. If you're moving that fast and you maneuver that like that, the way it was doing. But then they say there was biological evidence which probably is not human, and they were told to, retrieve something. I mean, and work on it. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah,
let's see what
the
comes out of
Rockwell
it.
crash, the Rockwell
Yeah,
field crash
yeah,
is the
field crash. Yeah, he said.
that's the place the story starts. It's just
But
amazing. I mean,
yeah, we've talked so much, Adi. We were, when I was talking of AG's system, okay, we should
hmm.
not forget that same USA could not spot a balloon for 4 days over its territory. Simple bloody balloon. Till it
Well,
came over Montana and, South Carolina. So then the Raptors went and shot it down. I mean, how? And a lot of explaining they had to do, because that how could you ignore it, okay, all completely. I mean, on one hand, you are going to have that, persistent surveillance, 550 satellites, and that also came up. They said, he said there is evidence that even satellites have picked up, because incidentally, that guy who was questioning him, he said that, we have satellite capability now, that we are watching each and every inch of the universe every second. So he
of the
said, how could
visible
this,
universe. I mean,
or the visible universe? Yeah, obviously. I
see
mean,
the most interesting,
but
for
then,
me,
I mean, sorry, wanted to ask him that what happened to the balloon wasn't part of that
for me
universe.
the most
Okay.
interesting thing is they talk about UFO sightings within the atmosphere.
Yeah.
ठीक है जी. My question is, these guys are coming from space allegedly.
Hmm. Hmm.
Why isn't anything else? We've got so many freaking satellites, so many space
Yeah.
systems, 36,000 feet, this feet, that feet. None of those things catch.
Yeah.
There's no
Absolutely.
sighting which has been reported from space of any of
Correct.
these UFOs. They're only sighted in certain areas of the world by either people or aircraft flying. Now that
Hmm.
to me, that is a connection I can't make, and I've been, I mean,
See, these satellites are probably not looking for these things. See, what happens is there's no human being in satellites, right? You are watching, they
hmm,
are being computed. So they are programmed probably to look at, let's say, if there's an Earth observation satellite, it's got a task to look at something. Okay. So what it does is probably when it looks that it's a computing system, anything else that it comes in between probably eliminates it, I would say. Like, how many satellites report aircraft anyway? They don't report flying aircraft, no, but they must be watching
apart from
them.
that, sir,
But
I
I
mean,
guess they're
it,
filtered.
it
Yeah.
it had to be coming in from somewhere, right? I'm not talking
Huh.
about
But
what is there close to the Earth. It had to be coming in from somewhere.
coming in from
And we've
somewhere,
got
but
things, we've got telescopes looking at stuff, we've got this and that, all that stuff happening. None of them pick
hmm,
up any. inward
But
moving
they,
objects.
yeah, only human beings, and probably they, when they can't decipher it, they ignore it. And even here, they say that so many sightings have been reported. Not everyone was actioned. I mean, it is now that it has become very, very prominent because that guy just came out of, in the open and saying that. There are now he's accusing people mismanagement of fund. They have something called IRAD,
Yeah, yeah.
internal R&D. Okay, so he's saying that this is what they are doing. That the funds meant for something else are being used somewhere else, and you are on a secret mission, and just those kind of things. So the whole thing has come out. Otherwise, often tic tac. The 2004 they call it tic tac sighting. He said this thing looked like a tic tac. It got a famous name after that. So that's how it is. Yeah.
Interesting, sir. So we'll start moving a little faster. We're at about 1 hour, 10
Yeah, yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
Next,
Please.
about 5, 7 questions. JP, thank you
Yeah.
so much. He says, super weapons kitni
कितनी
गंपा
गप्पा कितना
गप्पा है सच
गप्पा
है.
और लेखा भाई talk देश यार
Top dish.
I mean anybody's guess I would say how much
But
super weapons I would,
laser capability has been proven. There's no question.
laser capability is proven, no doubt about it. I'm saying so. I mean, I showed you picture. I mean, they've shot
Yeah.
down a missile.
So गप्पा तो ठीक है, but there is a
Hmm,
something is there.
hmm. Something is there that power output. Probably they don't want to say it, but this is no. Adi, we also have limitation to. I mean, to do research and come out. I mean, nobody
Yeah.
has physically used
Nobody.
it. Okay, so it is only what is available. I mean, you spend a little extra time and with knowledge to
नहीं नहीं sir.
see where you're required to see. Okay, but that is what it is, I guess.
So
It is future. It is wrong to believe that everyone will know everything. Then it's not. I mean, then defense forces or any government, or any security organization is not really. I would say doing its job. Some things will be there. Which will be under the guard. Yeah.
Gumnami Baba says, highly stimulating conversation today. Need more of these. And thank you so
No,
much for your
thank you.
contribution. Damanjeet Singh says, Air Marshal sir, with regards to air defense against ICBM and other missiles
Yeah.
and enemy aircraft, how well equipped are we, and what have we done to avoid friendly fire like the previous tragic incident?
Yeah, this is now, like I cited that Iranian Airbus also. We are very that was very sad. We can't get over that. What happened in Balakot shouldn't have happened. Okay, but what we have done against ICBM like S-400 system and our BMD system is there. We have PAD, we have AAD. I mean, if you just in your time, I mean, one day we can probably talk entirely on this. Then you have to go into details of what kind of radar, etc.
Air
Where can
defense,
it
Hanji.
see? Air defense radar, but we have a ballistic missile defense program, full-fledged program. Okay, and we are doing advances on that. Incidentally, that Prithvi Air Defense can tackle missiles. I mean, that is open source information at 50 to 80 kilometers of height. And this advanced AD can do it up to 30 kilometers. Now, why? Advanced AD, looks lower because, like we said, that it can intercept missiles closer to terminal phase, because now, like we said, that there are maneuverable re-entry heads, or there could be these glide vehicles which are maneuvering. So you will have to see that how close to
Launch.
terminal target that it can be taken on,
Mm.
because by then it would have settled down. Otherwise, you try to launch it somewhere else. And this maneuverability, again, I would like to just clarify. It is not that like the way aircraft maneuver, that I see something and I avoid him. Like, it's not the way we maneuver on the road or vehicles. You see something and you maneuver. They're pre-programmed kind of things. They see it. उसमें भी ऐसे ऐसे करके देखा तो there is no threat, but he is just moving. Because now the thing is that the computer is not able to program its future trajectory. You don't know where is it going to change course. So if it is heading in this direction, its target is not necessarily in that direction. It could be there. So at some point it will change direction. So after some time it will change direction. But what must be noticed is that every time it does that, it's losing energy, because changing direction at those speeds is not easy. That is why everyone wants to target these missiles in the initial phase, in the launch phase, because they say that if you make it maneuver, or if you tell the enemy that you can be targeted close to the launch, it would have lost most of its energy in the initial phase, and then it will not probably have much energy for subsequent maneuvering, or it will not reach the intended target, because let's say target coordinates have been fed. Missile has a stored energy. I mean, and we are not talking of cruise missile now, right? Whether it is solid fuel or liquid fuel, there is a finite amount of energy. And even if a glide vehicle, moment you have taken it to a height, in terms of potential energy, that is a finite energy it has got, right? That is what it is going to use to come to strike. So now, if you use that energy in the beginning only to maneuver, and it has a less residual energy, and it still wants to reach the target, what is it going to compromise on? It will not go and strike short of the target. It will compromise on maneuvering. It will now stop maneuvering. So aim is to make it, maneuver in the initial phase. If it does not maneuver in the initial phase, then it's vulnerable. So if I know as a launch guy that I am likely to be targeted in the launch phase itself, in the first, let's say, 100 kilometers of launch phase itself, I will make sure that I now maneuver in the launch phase also, okay, which was not earlier being done. And
Hmm.
now that is what is, now cat and mouse game, that you start him to maneuver in the initial phase, so that subsequently uh, it does not maneuver. So we started, I think question was on India, what are we doing? So that, like I said, this BMD and S400 are very potent. These are all ICBM measures only, which we have got in place. Are they adequate? How many more should be there? That is, I think, very strategic
Open
calculation
book.
and cost can you afford? Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
Aditya, he says a law of conversations and mass will not let DEWs feasible deadly in war for the next 40 years. Therefore, railgun will replace lasers. Would you agree, sir?
Yeah, probably. I mean, if now it depends which is serving your purpose more. Okay, he's put a time frame to it. I mean, it's a one can say, sometimes these things look nice. I When this US only was doing hypersonic program, and somebody asked some journal about this scramjet, about cruise missile. He said, our and they were testing that ARRW, that air launched response weapon, rapid response weapon, which finally they called off. And he said, our ARRW is 5 years away and will always be. Okay, that was his statement. Okay, so it means he knew that it's going to take long time, and finally it got shelved. Okay, so it will. How long will it take? 30 years, 40 years? I mean, this is anybody's guess. But then, yes, probably if it does not come up and something else comes up, then obviously it will overtake that. I mean, that's a fair guess.
So, Ramesh ji says, how far have we gone in CAT system and how far will it be effective on the China's border given the terrain?
Cats in the sense?
That's I thought you would know. It's something
No,
which
no, no.
my apologies.
No, no. I mean, because I often immediately, if we can clarify, or we can, I don't know. I mean,
I am not sure, sir,
I'm
because I thought
very,
it was
yeah,
a acronym based on the defense forces, and this gentleman
of course. Cats,
was
I
from
don't
that
know. I mean,
line.
I'm
So
not immediately can't,
he's
no, there
saying
are,
Tejas and CAT systems, sir. CAT's warrior,
hmm?
maybe combined teaming system,
Oh, no, no,
combat
that,
air teaming system.
no, okay, okay, sorry, okay. No, no, that man-on-man teaming, if that is that mum T we call it, okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it didn't strike
Combat
me.
air teaming system.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, okay, agreed. Okay, apologies for that. It didn't strike cats. I mean, something else came to my mind, because you're talking of DW lasers, and you start thinking on
Yeah,
those
so
lines. They
uh,
suddenly shift. So I was only thinking of lasers and DW. That what exactly is cats there? Okay, on China model. Okay, now this man unmanned teaming is the future. Okay, because what will happen is there are a lot of we've realized that even take Reapers. We are going to get Reapers now, or any UAV you take. Okay, it can never match the maneuverability of fighter aircraft, right? We saw what happened over Black Sea. Okay, that Reaper and Su-27 encounter. Okay, it just couldn't do anything. Okay, now what happens is we realize that if you send only the UAVs, they can only do so much. Okay, I mean, kamikaze is different, that you dispensable keep sending them, but a very costly equipment, a few $100 million worth UAV, you cannot afford to just send it in contested airspace alone and afford to lose it. Okay, now so that is why this teaming will work with, where what will happen is that guy does most of the there's a lot of things which can be done in UAV, and which can offset workload of the fighter guy flying. And the air defense cover, let's say if I have a system, now nobody can come near it to shoot it down, because there is a fighter aircraft teaming with it. Okay, and a lot of automation or auto systems, which for example, looking at some sensors, getting some data, getting some information. But you need communication for that, like we will need to have SDR for that, software
Hmm.
defined radio, which Europe, I mean NATO Link 16, what they famous, that where one aircraft can communicate with the other. AWACS can directly transfer information into fighter aircraft. Only then the teaming will work. I mean, unless there are now you can't do RT with the UAV. You're not going to do RT with this ground station, and all of them will have to be satellite controlled with SATCOM capability, because you're going further up. You can't be under control of your ground control station, etc. So all those capabilities when come, then I think this man-on-man teaming is a very potent thing, and this combat air teaming, of course, is very relevant.
So we were talking about aliens. I'm going to take this last funny comment. It says, "Why don't aliens eat clowns? Because they taste funny."
Yeah. Uh,
Sir, thanks so much. This was a fantastic show. I thought we'll just end it on a little bit of a funny note.
yeah,
Courtesy
yeah,
Gaurav.
no. Uh-huh.
Thank you so much, sir. Always lovely
Thanks.
talking to you.
No,
And
no, thank you so much, and
learning is
pleasure. I
just
myself, yeah, get to learn a few things in your show, Adi, I must say.
trust me, sir. It is amazing. You know that you were able to actually explain it to us in a very very easy way, sir. Which is the most
No,
important thing. So
thank you.
thank you so much for that, sir. And of course, I will be planning the air defense thing. And if possible, we could probably have a, why not have a discussion on the flying phenomenon of UFOs someday, so we could figure that out. These UFOs are
Yeah,
funny, weird creatures. People are talking about them all the time.
but
Uh,
we would be mostly
Not
guessing
much
as
is
to how
available.
this can
Yeah,
happen.
it's
Not
a
much is
guesstimate,
available.
but
Yeah,
let's see.
yeah,
We'll
yeah.
discuss, of course. Sir will come up with, you know, in-depth
Some
data about stuff.
some law of physics that controls them. Yeah, for all you know, the physics at those planets may be different than our planet. Who
Probably, sir.
knows?
Probably.
Yeah,
Never know. Thank you so much, sir.
of course.
Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah.